Welcome to another episode of Mr. Plumbs Thoughts. I want to start by thanking everyone that's watched the other videos I've released so far. I hope to keep making these. It's actually pretty fun and doesn't take a whole lot of effort to just throw out my thoughts on a matter. I'm not scripting these. I'm not spending a lot of time planning them. I have a thought in my head and I just go for a little bit of a walk when I'm out here at work and record my thoughts. I'm very appreciative of the views and comments I've gotten so far. I've been uploading to multiple platforms, and collectively they're doing pretty well. Some of the platforms seem a little slower than others, so it's been fun seeing the differences in those. Today I wanted to talk about this idea of the regression of gods, or infinite regression of gods. This goes back to a sermon that Joseph Smith taught called the King Follett sermon, or the King Follett discourse. This King Follett was a guy who had passed away, and this was just a few months before Joseph Smith died. So you might say that Joseph had learned all that he would learn before he died, and this discourse kind of reveals some of those things that he had learned, and was used to comfort the family of the deceased and whatnot. So in this discourse, there's a part where Joseph Smith says that God the Father, when he was a spirit, he found himself in the midst of other spirits and intelligence, and saw that he was more intelligent than the rest, and so he instituted laws whereby we could ascend and become like him. Now, some have taken this to mean that God the Father followed somebody else's plan and became God. I can't find that in the text anywhere. What I read is that God the Father was the first. He was the one who instituted the laws whereby we could all become like him. Now, between God the Father and us, there are an infinite number of gods, but some people want to continue that chain on beyond God the Father, and it might be so. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but what I am saying is that, at least as far as what we've had revealed to us, what Joseph Smith actually taught was that everything goes back to God the Father. God the Father was the first. He's the one who walked the path. He paved it. And then he created the ladder, and he handed it down to us to follow, to become like him. Now, some people want to say, well, Jesus Christ had a father, so if he did everything his father did, then that would mean his father had a father too. Yes, but you got to be careful with this, because Jesus Christ created our world. He created the whole world that he then came into and lived a perfect life and died and ascended and became exalted and became just like his father. So what we can gather from that is not that God the Father had a spirit father, but that in the world that he created, he did also create a lineage that he himself was born into, so that he could become a man. Just like Jesus Christ, God the Father also entered into a world, lived a perfect life, and atoned for the sins of all those that followed after him. And so he was the first, and he paved the way. Whether there was any before him, I can't say. It's fun to speculate on things, but at the end of the day, we can really only go with what we're given, unless we just start making things up. And I don't really like making things up. I like going with what we've been told. So we do believe that there is an infinite number of gods. That's obvious, because we are also training to become God, and we've been told that there have been endless worlds that God has created, which means there have been endless gods that have been exalted. But none of that, in my estimation, means that God the Father had a father. And I've yet to find anything that actually confirms that. And I mean spirit father when I say this. Obviously, he would have had a worldly or earthly father that he had to come through, or who was considered his father in the flesh, whether it was the same process as on this planet where, technically Christ's father was a spirit being. We don't know all the mechanics. I mean, there's lots of questions that we don't have. I can only go off of what the text says. And what the text says is that God the Father was the first. And there's really not much more that can be said about that. So I hope this helps answer a little bit about what we think about regression of gods. I don't speak for the entire church. I don't speak for all of the members. There are plenty of members that believe that God the Father had a father based on things that were said. I personally, I don't see it. And in my estimation, that does make God the Father less than who he is. Thinking that God the Father used to be a sinner and, we're all supposed to be like him, well, that, in a way, in my opinion, justifies sin. And I don't like that answer. I like that we all need to strive to be perfect and that we should never justify sin, because Jesus Christ never sinned. And if Jesus Christ never sinned and he did all the things that his Father did, then that would mean his Father also never sinned. So I think God the Father needs to remain on that high pedestal above everyone else. And I hope that you agree. Let me know what you think in the comments.